New gold Sassa cards are coming into effect. Grant recipients need to change over to the new card to ensure that January payments are processed. The grants agency, I should say, says the new card has additional security features. eNCA reporter Janke Tolmay has been following that story and joins us now. Good evening, Janke. Take us back again as to why there was a need for this new card.
Well, we know there's been years and years of challenges when it comes to Sassa payments, specifically because of that contract, that controversial contract with CPS. And we know that finally in September that contract was phased out, and that means that CPS is no longer involved, and grants, the payment of grants was taken over by the post office and Sassa. So that meant that they had to bring out these new cards. But because there's millions of people involved in this process, they gave an initial deadline of September to phase in the new cards and make sure those old cards are phased out, and later that it expires so you can't use them anymore. But unfortunately it seemed like people were kind of taking their time to swap, so they extended that deadline once again to the end of this year. But they said especially rather they swap the cards by today because they need to migrate then all the people to this new system, and it takes time, and then so that not everyone comes at the same time at the end of September. So it's been a long time coming, but it was finally put into motion in the last couple of months, getting that new system going into the post office and the Sassa partnership, and getting CPS out basically.
And what is Sassa saying at this point? I mean, we're only a few days now, a couple of weeks exactly, to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Have people been coming forward, taking up the new card? What has been the response rate?
Well, at the beginning, it seemed like a lot of people adhered to their calls or heeded their calls, and they came and they swapped their cards. So those numbers were coming down significantly. You have to keep in mind that it's millions of people relying on social grants. Then it came down to, at the moment, around 375,000 people nationwide. And now it seemed to kind of came to a standstill, because they said, for example, yesterday in Mapunya Mall, only 21 people came to swap their cards compared to thousands coming per day earlier on. So there seemed to be a bit of a challenge right now. So I spoke to the Sassa spokesperson, Paseka Letsatsi, and he kind of explained where they are right now and what will happen going forward.
The lifespan of this old white Sassa card, it's coming to an end. Therefore, we can't use it post 2018. So we are appealing to them. We're definitely appealing to them to make sure that they do not necessarily experience all kinds of problems in the new year. You know, January is a very difficult month. So we want our beneficiaries to listen to us. Come forward, please. Change your cards.
Now, how many are we looking at? What's the number of people who have not yet done the crucial swap? And what will happen going forward next year to those people if they do not swap their cards?
We're sitting at about, I think, around 370,000. We'll definitely deposit the money into the account. But unfortunately, that thing is not going to happen forever. If beneficiaries still don't come forward after 3 months, we would regard that particular account as a dormant account, and we'll definitely close it.
Remind us again, Janke, when is the next round of payments?
Well, that will start on the 1st of January next year. What's really important to just clarify is the fact that from next year on, the payments or the money will be paid into beneficiaries' account. They will have the money. Sassa will not keep it, but the fact is they can't access that money with the old card. So if they go next year to a ShopRite, to a Pick n Pay, wherever, to the banks where they usually access their grants, they won't be able to use their old card. So they will still be able to swap it next year. It would just be obviously a huge inconvenience, and then there might be a spike or influx of people going to the offices next year. Then there's the other question about if there's still more than almost 400,000 people who haven't swapped their cards. how long will they keep these accounts open that do not have these new cards? Because obviously there might be accounts, duplicates or maybe fraudulent accounts, not necessarily what they're saying, but they are saying that if this is basically an inactive account from next year for at least 3 months, then they will close that account. But obviously by that time, you would understand that any grant beneficiary would at least want to access their grant. So it would only take 3 months, and then if they see that that account's not being accessed, they will close it. But in the meantime, your money will be in your account, but you can't access it with that old card. So that's why they're saying that you have to do it before the end of September. The deadline they gave on social media was the 15th of December. That was for administrative purposes because they're migrating the remaining number, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look at the bigger picture, but administrative-wise, 370,000 is quite a lot that still needs to be moved. And it was quite interesting because I spoke to a couple of beneficiaries asking them why they haven't moved yet. And then you got responses from they said end of December, so I still have time. Some people are just leaving it for the last minute. Other people did not know that their cards were expiring, and they were called by Sassa officials, and that's why they came in today. Even though there was been various mediums used to try and inform these people, but as I mentioned, it's millions of people, and it's across all the country, some in cities, some in rural areas, so it is quite difficult to get to everyone.
And have they cleared all those teething problems that were associated with the introduction of the new system and the new card? Sassa, that is.
Yeah, Sassa. Well, according to the spokesperson, he said he's 99% happy. So it seems like most of the challenges they've dealt with. Obviously, there might be new challenges coming in with people only getting their new cards now on. So it's quite an ongoing process. But I have to say, it seems like we're not seeing as many concerns being raised by beneficiaries as we've seen in the first or second month. For example, when I went to the Sassa offices today, it was quite quiet, but most of the payments have been made by now. But they're still facing other things like possible scams. As I mentioned before, they arrested 11 people earlier this week who were already in the possession of the new cards. Now, you have to remember, not even all the beneficiaries have these new cards yet, but it seems like these people already had access to these gold cards. They said it's an undisclosed amount or number of cards, but there wasn't any money on these cards. They were still inactive, so they don't even know what they were planning on using them for. So there's a lot that they need to keep an eye out. People are, especially during this time, targeting the most vulnerable of South Africa, and that's most of the time it's the beneficiaries.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it for now. Janke Tolmay, who has been tracking that story for us. Sassa, of course, urging grant recipients to make sure that they do the switch to the new card, for if you don't, then you won't be able to access your grant, even though Sassa says it will have paid it into